Hello, my name is Joe Coughlin, and I am the founder and CEO of Corporate Risk Solutions, which is a risk advisory firm in the alternative capital space located here in New York City. Over the last few months, I've really had a chance to reach out to some people that we've gotten a chance to meet and get to know over time that are in various industries that we've thought very highly of. And one of those people is a woman by the name of Chelsea Grayson. Chelsea is a true Californian, and she's actually a true Angelino, having been born and raised in the area, having attended UC Santa Barbara, UCLA, having gone to Loyola Law School, spent a early part of her career at Jones Day, a firm that we have done a lot of work and I have a tremendous amount of respect for. And when you're dealing with some of the top people at Jones Day and they rave about Chelsea, it didn't take long to see why. Then went over to Loeb and Loeb, and then kind of moved into some very interesting, very, very challenging roles. So Chelsea, hello from New York to LA.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege.
Well, you certainly are. I got a chance to meet you when you were at American Apparel. And suffice to say, you were going through some challenging times then. And I think that when we look at 2020, it only got more and more challenging. But can you just talk about, because I've heard so much about and seen your legal background, how did that prepare you for where you are today and what you've been involved with in the recent past?
You know, it's actually interesting because it wasn't something, I'd like to say it was something I strategically planned from the outset in the very incubatory stages of my legal career. But a lot of it was just me being fortunate. I think I made the right decisions, but a lot of it, again, was just me being fortunate. So right out of law school, I did a federal judicial clerkship for Judge Sam Bufford in the federal bankruptcy court. Had not intended on ever being a bankruptcy lawyer or ever being involved in distress or anything like that. You know, it was just a judicial clerkship that I got, and I learned a lot because, you know, bankruptcy, you know, is this sort of gorgeous hybrid between transactional, you know, and courtroom law litigation. And so when I got out and went to Jones Day and started my incubatory career as a corporate finance lawyer, all of a sudden 9/11 hit a couple of years into my career. So then there was that sort of mini recession after 9/11, and I realized I had to pivot and pivot very quickly because there was no deal market anymore. So I went over to the restructuring and bankruptcy folks at Jones Day and said, how can I pitch in? And they looked and saw that I had this bankruptcy clerkship under my belt. And so I went off to the races and did a lot of distressed M&A over the course of that sort of mini recession until about 2004, when we emerged and the economy started to recover. Then I was really just a full-blown M&A lawyer at that point, which is how I transitioned to the M&A group, where I ultimately made partner up from the ranks at Jones Day. So it was sort of that bankruptcy clerkship kind of sort of, got me up to speed on the distress side of things. And then being a public M&A lawyer for the rest of my career, my legal career was almost 20 years long, got me into the boardroom where I learned a heck of a lot about good corporate governance. So by the time they recruited me to join American Apparel, initially as the general counsel before I was promoted to the CEO spot, it was again to shore up corporate governance, which had totally fallen by the wayside there. But it was also to deal with the incredible liquidity distress that the company was undergoing, as well as the culture crisis that it was going through. So I sort of had this perfect blend of boardroom experience and distress experience and restructuring experience, and kind of that blend that a lot of general counsels don't come in with, which is, deal work as well as litigation work. So it actually ended up being the perfect springboard. And 20 years before, I could have never guessed that clerkship would give that to me.
Wow. Well, and you certainly had some issues that you're walking into. Not only are you in a difficult industry to begin with, but and with so many different moving parts, but I just can't even imagine without having that legal background, the ramp, the learning curve is just too precipitous to even catch up to be able to toggle both together. It would seem.
We were under so much pressure and under attack from so many different places, but mostly in the litigation arena, that really for the first year that I was at American Apparel, we ran the company from the general counsel's office, which is why they ultimately gave me some business divisions to put under my belt, gave me the chief administrative officer title, and then why it was such a natural transition into the CEO role. Because I really got to know the company better than almost any other executive officer at that company, got to know that company.
Right.
Because we were just, it was $500 million in litigation. We had a proxy contest. We had a faux unionization attempt. We had, we had an SEC investigation into embezzlement for the previous C-suite. We made T-shirts, which was sort of an afterthought.
Jeez. Well, all right. So there's so many topics that I'd like to talk about as we look at retail, but let's just go into 2020, right? And you see the number of companies that have filed for Chapter 11, at least for now. And, whether it's JCPenney, Neiman Marcus, J. Crew, Pure One, Models. And then just some of the challenges when I think about it, we were involved with a sportswear, action wear company a few years ago. And I remember hearing that the kiss of death at the time was when a 12 or 14-year-old would see their father wearing their board shorts or sandals, that was it. The kid said, "I'm out." And so you would never recapture that kid, and he would move on to a different brand. The father being me. This is about, I wore this shirt for you, and which is probably like 2 or 3 years, out of touch, but from Paris, just to try to show how fashion forward that I could be, and maybe with some glasses, look a little metro. But
yeah, you merged it up. I like it. It's good.
Well, but so, can you blend some of the bankruptcy situations in there and maybe get into, how do you keep a brand alive? How do you keep the customer loyalty? You could also bake in the fact of the bricks and mortars and whoever thought that landlords were going to become financiers of some of these.
I think most, if not all, of the retail bankruptcies you're seeing now, that those companies were already going through the retail apocalypse, right? This just accelerated. This was just the final nail in their coffin. A lot of those companies don't even deserve to be reorganized, frankly. These are heritage companies that don't necessarily have a lot of brand equity any longer, as you pointed out. And they have totally creaky supply chains. They never really got a grip on how to predict and manage inventory or planning and allocation. They really don't have a clue, to go to the end of your question, as to how to be authentic with their customer or how to maintain some sort of level of authenticity. And so all this really did was separate the wheat from the chaff, in my opinion. And you're absolutely right. A lot of them were so incredibly brick and mortar heavy. They were only deriving about 25% of their revenue from their e-com businesses. And a lot of that was because their e-com businesses were squeaking out a really low margin, right? So a lot of these businesses just weren't going to be able to transition to a world where 50 to 75% of your revenue has to be derived on your e-com platform when you've got a totally unstreamlined e-com platform, when you do have very low margins there because your shipping costs and your supply chain is totally inefficient, and so a lot of them sort of needed to fall by the wayside, or at least fall by the wayside momentarily to restructure.
So it's amazing how fast we run out of time, but let me ask you this. You have moved into, and I encourage people to follow you on LinkedIn and to watch some of your, the videos that you have done. I don't want to say it wrong. What are we calling it? From the...
Well, I've got 2 shows, yeah. So the one that's probably relevant to your viewers is called From the Office of the CEO, where I give sort of 10 to 15 minute, tidbits on, the topic of the day as it relates to business and career.
Right. And so in just last thoughts though, how can your platform, you've got a world of knowledge, you're putting that out there now in advisory positions or board seats, because you certainly have, a fantastic pedigree in some of the companies that you're involved with, which we haven't even remotely touched on, are fascinating.
Yeah, thank you. No, I am. So I got done with my 2 CEO gigs. So I was the CEO of American Apparel and then the CEO of True Religion. And I'm taking all of that seasoning, and I'm currently serving on several public company boards, and I'm also an executive in residence for a performance marketing company that I very much believe in. I do think marketing technologies are for sure where most companies should be placing the vast majority of their marketing budget. Brand marketing is not a very scientific method of marketing. Performance marketing, you know, if you pull a lever over here, exactly what's going to happen over there. And if it's not working, you know to pull a different lever. So I'm lending my seasoning to companies in that way now.
Well, I can't wait till we're all traveling again and getting back out to California to see you, and wish you the best. And thank you very much. And anybody who wants to talk about retail, Chelsea Grayson is the one to do it with.
For better
All right.
or worse.
Chelsea, thank you very much.
Thank you
Stay
for
safe.
having me.